I am convinced that the average American has a severe disconnect with their own personal um, checklist of values. I don't think the average American understands fully what concepts they are in league with without question versus what concepts they are in league with without further evaluation or something like that. Okay, apparently I'm shooting the ceiling. I've come to a point where social media is more of Captain's log from Star Trek, and I don't anticipate any of these recordings to be anything that anybody actually watches, and I wouldn't recommend they're watched by anyone. Um, I would actually recommend that every individual person open up a YouTube account and um, try to, or not TikTok, YouTube. Open up an account and try to make a journal of your development as a human being on this planet. Because sometimes you're going to look at things and find things that you agree with, and then sometimes you're going to look at things and find things that at one point in time you agreed with, but then you learned more and decided you don't agree with. I'm becoming more and more convinced that a person needs values in order to be able to be a survivor on this planet. This planet is a dualistic, paradoxical nightmare where, philosophically speaking, things only make sense if you've been here a while. you know? I'm 42 years old and I'm coming to a place of realization that it doesn't matter what a person looks like. It doesn't matter what a person thinks, even. And sometimes it doesn't even matter what a person does, believe it or not. What matters is the person's current state of character. Because let's say well, at one point in time, I was an evangelical Christian. I thought for sure that someday I would be rising up nations in Christ's name. And now look at me. I am a non-gender conforming queer or pansexual woman of color. It sounds like I'm listing a grocery list. These are all the things that matter these days. I am Puerto Rican. I am attracted to women, and I have been attracted to, non-biological women, and that makes me pansexual. Okay, that's the human word. Okay, humans want to, say this is what I am. All right, sure. I like the color blue. I dyed my hair blue. Now it's a political statement. I like tattoos. I put them on my face. That's a political. It's not, though. It's not. I'm not committing to any human definition of what the fuck existence means. Maybe I'm weird, but the bottom line is that humanity is still trying to figure it out. We're all trying to figure it out. And you can't figure it out unless you have a list of values. You have to have a code of integrity in your mind. This is okay, this is not okay. This type of behavior is okay. This is not. And you can't just look at some fucking news outlet and hope to get a cheat sheet for that. And I think that a lot of people these days are doing that with the media. They're like, oh, whatever Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar says, that's what I think. What if those two bitches are bitches? You know? Oh, Trump, whatever he does is awesome. No, it's not. No, it's not. All of these people are just a bunch of primates on the third rock from the sun. Okay? You have to be the one to decide what makes you tick. And I'm deciding what makes me tick is honor, integrity. You know, I don't want to hurt people. I want to be a decent human being. But then you get assholes from in America. You get them from the right and the left. It doesn't matter. It's like we decided, oh, we're gonna part ourselves into two pools, and that's the only logic pools It's bullshit. It's bullshit. All of it's bullshit. I used to be a Christian, which I guess would mean conservative Republican, even though at one point I was not voting at that time. And now as a queer person, and queer meaning weird, I was always weird, even when I was conservative. But now I think that queer just applies to non-conservative. I don't know. These humans, they figured out is particularly the American humans. The American humans figured out this whole hierarchy of things. I don't care. Bottom line is this. I don't hate Trump. I don't trust him. I find it odd that nobody has recognized the fact that his name is Trump, which means you don't know what you're getting, which means you could get good things, you could get bad things. Depends on who knows. It's Trump. And nobody is talking about that. Listen, I'm a witch, right? I do crystals and all the weird hippie shit. I do all that stuff. And I see synchronicities everywhere, and I'm not seeing anyone calling out the name of the current president of the United States, which is causing so much unrest. People are saying that he's Hitler. He's not Hitler. He's not. Hitler did different things. You may not like this guy. Whoops. You may not like him. But saying he's Hitler is disingenuous. He didn't do the things that Hitler did. Call him an asshole, but don't call him Hitler unless he has a body count. And then, you know, there are some people who are happy with the mental gymnastics, and they're like, oh, well, this amount of people died during COVID, and therefore he's responsible for it. Don't, shut the fuck up. That's not the same as the Holocaust. Don't even try. You know? But then you've got these like Hitler. Ugh. Let's erase his name from the ethers right now in my brain. Then you got these anti-Trump people who are like, hey, this 5-year-old little boy likes to dress up as a Disney princess. Let's assume that he's transgender and start the medical procedure. And I'm like, okay, what if the kid's not trans? What if he's just attracted to those? Why does wanting to dress up like a Disney princess automatically make a 5-year-old biological male child transgender? I thought being trans is like reaching this state. Okay, so this is what I believe about being transgendered. I believe that humans are these spirit beings. I believe in reincarnation. I believe that they come back to learn and grow after they die. And I believe that sometimes a person might incarnate in a gender that does not necessarily feel comfortable for them yet. Maybe they're not ready. So, like, you manifest in a female body, but you're not ready to be a female yet. Maybe there's still things in the dualistic, paradoxical nature of the planet Earth as a female, as a divine goddess creature that you're ready to consume. This is my, personal belief. I say a lot. It's very obnoxious. I have to delete that programming. I think that's some sort of fawning response to try to get people to think that I don't think that I'm right. Anyway, I bought a bottle of vodka. I bought a bottle of vodka. And I had 2 drinks. And this is where I am. Isn't that the body cam bingo? I only had 2 drinks. And it's like half the bottle's gone. Maybe they were long drinks. I don't know. And it just made me think about all the things that I think about and agonize about. And like gender. What is gender? Gender, in my definition, is basically the way that you identify in your lifetime as a human, as under the framing of dualism, male, female, negative, positive, 0, 1. That is the way this paradoxical planet is functioning. Right now I'm female, but I feel like I've had incarnations that were male. And I think I'm done with that, because I think that I've learned everything I could learn from that perspective, and now I'm trying to learn from the female. But I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility for human creatures or living creatures of Earth to basically say, oh, I'm going to try to be a female, and then maybe they're not ready for it yet. Maybe it's not, the right time for that person to, maybe there's still things in the male they need to learn. And that I respect. I respect 2 spirits. I respect the dualistic paradox of Earth. What I don't respect is fetishists, autogynephiles, who get like a thrill out of putting on, they identify as male, but they get a bit of a thrill of dressing up as female and showing up in predominantly female spaces to get a reaction. And I feel like right now the trans movement is ignoring the fact that that is happening. They're ignoring the fact that there are autogynephiles who are inserting themselves within spaces that are trying to be supportive to transgendered individuals, two-spirit people who have, maybe they're used to a certain incarnation, they tried another incarnation and they're not ready for it. I believe that autogynephiles are just living out a fetish, which I actually don't have a problem with. But when you do it without the consent of the individuals that you're participating in that with, then I have a problem with it. If you go into a woman's locker room, knowing full well that you've got a full beard, and the only thing that you have to claim that you identify as a female is that you're wearing lip gloss that day, you're doing that on purpose. I'm sorry. We can't gaslight ourselves into saying that people who get a thrill out of deception don't exist. We can't gaslight ourselves into thinking that there are people who aren't trying to game the system. And I'm not against autogynephilia. I'm actually supportive of all of kink culture, but I am a kink culture participant who is very, very adamantly disposed to be committed in the direction of, wow, that's a lot of words, consent. What about consent? You know, if you want to wear my panties and put on my lipstick and pretend you're me, I am fine with that. And I'll play along, provided you got my consent first. I see nothing wrong with people participating in kink culture, provided they get consent. You know, you got a guy with a full beard who wants to put on a tutu and a tiara and lipstick and say that tonight he's a 6-year-old little girl. I have nothing wrong with that. I have nothing wrong with that. Provided everybody who is playing along with the scene understands the scene, consents to the scene. And there you go. Live out your kink. Be your best you. You know, I'm a huge kink supporter. But there are people whose kink is going outside of the parameters of consent. You know? They want to go to the person who would normally never consent to a play session where we're all going to play act and say that you're a 6-year-old little girl in school. Okay, whatever. That's weird, whatever. That's for the late night dungeons. I get it. But everybody present has to be in on it, which I think for some autogynephiles kills the thrill. And so they are abusing transgender support to try to get a thrill out of forcing non-consent on people. And that's a problem. And the gaslighting of trying to pretend that that doesn't happen is also a problem. And also the gaslighting of trying to pretend that there aren't medical professionals that can profit off of telling a young person that they need these medical procedures to overcome their depression, major medical procedures that don't really have the longevity of testing that other medical procedures have. They want to go ahead and say, this is going to solve all of your problems. Sign on the dotted line. I don't like that. Okay? I've worked in the medical field. I hope to continue to work in the medical field. And I think that ultimately, all patients deserve the right to get the care that they need without the influence of medical professionals trying to push or coerce them into some sort of treatment that could be something they regret later. That's all I'm saying. And for that, I know I cancel her, revoke her blue hair, shave her head, take her tattoos and glasses away. I think that the medical industry, at least in USA, needs to be honorable enough to know the difference between a kid who has genuine gender dysphoria versus a kid who needs to figure out more before they commit to a major surgery. I know I have blue hair. So I'm not supposed to be saying all of this, but I also have been dieting. And I, for the first time, was allowed to get myself a little bit of vodka. And that's why I'm speaking the truth. So, I'm I guess I'm woke in the sense that I believe that trans people should be respected. I believe that trans rights are legitimate. I believe that racial equity is important, but I'm not stupid, all right? I know that there are people that are going to exploit those concepts. And I know that because I used to be a conservative Christian. And I knew the same kind of people used to do the same kind of mental gymnastics to benefit themselves with an ideology. When I was a Christian, I remember there were people that it would benefit them perfectly to say, personally, to say something to the pastor to get something they would personally want, perfect with, whatever they want. And if they used the right amount of Christian language, they would get what they want. And my mother was victim to that in this one production she was going to do about Santa Claus being best friends with Jesus. I don't know what it was. It was like Santa was supposed to go to the nativity scene, and I don't know, it was something to do with, it was a Christian thing. I don't know. It's Florida. It's church theater. What do you want? It's going to be dramatic. Well, anyway, she had this like whole, play set up to do with Santa and Jesus, and Jesus, Santa, yay. And there was this woman who was, I think she was jealous because she wanted to be the one in charge of the Christmas pageant. And she didn't get that. My mom got, I don't know. You know how bitches are. They're like, you wore green on the day I was going to wear green. Therefore, we're enemies for life. Stupid bitch bullshit, ape bullshit, human bullshit, bullshit. Sorry, I decided to be grotesque. Well, anyway, this lady was like, Santa is demonic. Fuck Santa. And all of the other people were like, yeah, okay, that checks out on brand. Let's go ahead, because that doesn't go along with the brand, and villainize the entire Christmas pageant. So my mom was kind of heartbroken because the whole like script that she was going to write about Santa being friendly with Jesus was basically rejected by the only platform where she could put together a performance or something. And that was a perfect example to me of how emotionally manipulative piece of shit individuals will come up with the perfect narrative script to disassemble what you're doing and look like they have the moral high ground, even though they don't. That play was harmless. And you know what else is harmless? Video games, superheroes, comic books. But you get jealous, nasty, vindictive, piece of shit bitches who like to get up and tell everybody why they can't enjoy the things that are fun because of this moral thing or that moral thing. And it's bullshit. They have a vested interest to stop you from consuming whatever the fuck that content. In my mom's case, that bitch wanted to be the director and she didn't get the honorable stage director position. So she decided to find mental gymnastics to implement the concept and framing that Santa is somehow evil and against the true meaning of Christmas, which is, I don't fucking know. She doesn't know either. She just knew she was pissed off because my mom was making a play and she wanted to make a play. That's all it was. That's all it was. But it doesn't have to be just in Christianity, okay? I could make a play about the seasons of the earth or something harmless like that. And some fucking feminist can come out and talk about how I'm a misogynist because I didn't have enough disabled gay people of color queer gendered list of minority things. And that's not the real reason why the person's boycotting me. The real reason why the person would be boycotting me is because they don't like me personally. Maybe they don't like my nose. Maybe they think it's too big. Maybe they don't like my gray stripes. Which, by the way, if my hair wasn't blue, it would be totally black with a gray stripe here and a gray stripe here. Nobody cares. But your haters care. And they're going to look for whatever little detailed thing they can zero in on and then triangulate the rest of your social group against you so that they can basically take you down. And that's all this bullshit is. Wow, I've been talking for a half hour. I need to not diet and then reward myself with a bottle of vodka.